the outcomes, and then we will take a few questions as well. High Representative, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Peter, and thank you to all of you for waiting. It has been, well, maybe a little bit longer, but in any case, a council with important topics, with important guests, and with important results, if I may say. At the start, we were joined by Secretary Blinken, U.S. Secretary of State. We discussed a number of topics with him by video conference. I think that this exchange has demonstrated that both parts of the Atlantic, the EU and the US, we have a strong commitment to enhance this transatlantic coordination. We need urgent action in Ukraine, both here and in the US. After listening to Dmytro Kuleba, it's clear that action is urgent. If we want to continue providing support to Ukraine, action is urgent, and both parts have to accelerate decisions on that. On the Middle East, we can achieve more together, more specifically in the situation in Gaza, and for a lasting peace based in two-state solution. We can achieve more together, working together in order to look for solutions to Gaza and to push for the two-state solutions. For both things, Ukraine and the Middle East, the transatlantic unity is essential if we want to face these challenges. Then we were joined by another guest, which is an unusual guest. It comes to talk with us every Foreign Council, Dmytro Kuleba, the Foreign Affairs Minister of Ukraine. He updated us about the situation on the ground, in particular on the military side, on the Ukrainian current positions and priorities. And in this context of the urgency to support the Ukraine military, the Council, the ministers, made two important decisions. First, we adopted the Ukrainian Assistance Fund within the European Peace Facility, with 5 more billions. This will add predictability to our military support, which remains guided by the needs of Ukraine. This will allow us to deliver from stocks, purchasing, bilateral procurement, deliveries based on joint procurement, and training under our military mission, which has been one of the most successful training missions of the European Union. Second, we agreed to sanctions to those responsible for the murder of Alexei Navalny, 30 individuals and entities under the US global human rights sanctions regime. We also discussed on the use of frozen assets. Let's be clear. We talk about the revenues. We talk about the windfall profits. We don't talk about the capital. We talk about the revenues of this capital, which has been extraordinary. And this is something that we identified, to put aside, and now the issue is to take it and to use it on the benefit of Ukraine. I discussed that with the ministers. We have been discussing that for months. And at the end of the discussion, I told the ministers, look, we have to take a decision on the basis of a concrete proposal, a council decision, a legal text that only the High Representative can table to the Council. That will have to be accompanied by, as always, every time we talk about a restrictive measure, and this is a restrictive measure taken under the Common Foreign and Security Policy, will be accompanied by a joint regulation from the High Rep and the Commission. Decisions and regulation, there are two different legal texts. A Council decision tabled by the High Representative, and a Council regulation to implement the decision, which will be according with a joint communication from the High Rep and the Commission. But the first step is the Council decision. If there is no decision, it cannot be a regulation. To regulate what? To regulate the implementation of a decision. So after the discussion today, I've seen that there is a strong support. There are some member states that want to have more details, but there is, I think, a strong support to take the revenues, the windfall profits, and to use it to support Ukraine. How? Military, to increment the resources of the European Peace Facility, and also to support the development of the Ukrainian defense industry. And I am going to table this Council decision proposal and will work with the Commission to approve a Council regulation in order for the Member States to discuss a concrete proposal before the European Union Council. I cannot say that there was a unanimity, but a strong consensus to take this decision. And then we exchanged the presidential elections in Russia. You have seen the U-27 statement on this. These so-called elections took place in a highly restricted environment, with voters deprived of a real choice and a systematical internal repression. It was not the electoral observation mission, certainly not from our side, but not even from the OSCE. So we can only consider that this election has been taken in the middle of a systematic repression of the voters, and we have to condemn the illegal holding of these so-called elections in the territories of Ukraine that Russia has temporarily occupied. We discussed the situation in Belarus and the constantly worsening internal situation. Belarus remains high in our agenda. The violation of civil rights and political rights of the Belarusian people continues. There are more than 1,400 political prisoners. We ask for their freedom, and we will take further measures according with the proposal of the member states to continue supporting the Belarusian opposition. Then we went to the situation in the Middle East in general and in Gaza in particular. Today the World Food Programme have issued a report on the situation in Gaza. Do you have the report here? Well, the report says that they have never seen an starvation situation as the one that people in Gaza are suffering. 70% of the population are in risk of starvation, and 100%, almost everybody, is on severe food stress. This is the situation in Gaza. We discussed about the Cyprus maritime route. I issued a statement this afternoon together with Commissioner Lenargic about this situation in Gaza. Certainly, when we talk about the situation in Gaza, we have to repeat our condemnation of the Hamas attacks and to ask for the freedom of the hostages. As always, we do. But the issue, this statement from this body attached to the World Food Programme is very important to have a clear understanding of what's going on there. Certainly, the Cyprus maritime route has to be developed, but more access by land has to be facilitated by Israel. I want to repeat again that all hostages should be unconditionally freed, that nobody should bargain with civilian lives. Then we discussed about the sanctions on Hamas, and we agreed also on sanctions to extremist settlers. It was not possible last Foreign Affairs Council. This time has been possible, A solid compromise has been agreed at the working level, and I hope that this will be continue until full adoption soon. But the political agreement is there. We also had an orientation debate on the EU-Israel Association Agreement. This association agreement is explicitly based on shared values between us, respect to human rights, the rule of law, and democracy. We have to further engage with Israel to further discuss the situation in Gaza. To call for an association council certainly was complicated and had not strong support, because first you have to agree on an agenda and you have to agree on a common position from member states, which was going to be very difficult to get. By the contrary, many member states said instead of that, in order to continue reaching out with Israel and to discuss about this issue, we could invite again the Foreign Affairs Minister of Israel to attend the Foreign Affairs Council. And certainly the new Prime Minister of the Palestinian Authority should also be invited to listen from the Palestinian side. In any case, the respect for human rights around the world is something that matters for us, whatever there is a problem. And we have a special representative for human rights who takes care of this issue all around the world. And what's happening in Gaza is also something that concerns all of us, remembering once and again the terrorist attack of Hamas against the Israeli people. But the answer from Israel has to be studied, considered. Many voices have been asking for Israel not to attack Rafah and to take more measures to protect the civilians. We also discussed the recent developments in Haiti. We support a viable, inclusive and sustainable Haitian-led political transition. We emphasize the importance of deploying the multinational security support mission authorized by the United Nations Security Council, and we are exploring how we can indirectly support the objective of this mission. Haiti is the typical example of a failed state, completely failed, in the hands of gangs, of organized crime, when there is not a state that can provide a framework for security, that cannot provide security from police forces, a judiciary, when there is not an organized society, then what happens? Well, it happens that the gangs are taking arms and trying to control the country, fighting against each other, terrorizing the civilian population, and bringing the society towards a complete chaotic, dangerous situation. Haiti is a typical example. We have seen that in Somalia also before, in Mogadishu. And I am sorry to say that the situation in Gaza can also be something that we see the development of gangs. We see the development of forces which take advantage of the dire situation. And we have to restore security, and we have to restore human support to the population in Gaza if we want Gaza to become a Mediterranean Haiti. This is a reflection that I put on the table to the ministers in order to increase our support, to take into the role of UNRWA that has to be continued supporting. Some member states has retaken their support to UNRWA, but also organizations can also participate on the support to the Palestinians. We want to stress that we certainly support the right of Israel to defend itself, but it has to be done in accordance with international law and humanitarian law. And we don't accept the blames against UNRWA, saying that UNRWA is a partner or is cooperating with Hamas or with any terrorist organization. We have to reject this accusation and wait for the Colonna mission in order to analyze what has happening during the 7th of October days and to follow the result of this audit.
Thank you. That was the summary. We take a few questions. Unlike last time when you had to walk to the microphone, this time the microphone will come to you. So first one will be Dmitro, so you can stay in your place, just stand up.
Thank you so much, Dmitro Shkurko, National News Agency of Ukraine. We have read that Ukraine Assistance Fund is designed to incentivize the European defense industry and the defense industry of Norway. My question is that project in the framework of this Ukrainian Assistance Fund open for Ukrainian enterprises? I mean, would this money be directed to the direct producing ammunition or military equipment in Ukraine itself? And the second question, if I may, excuse me please for asking of dating, but as we are speaking about the frame contracts on ammunition production, when can we expect the first delivery of ammunition from that projects to Ukraine? Because you know maybe the best of all that each and every minute of delay costs a horrible price for Ukrainians. Thank you.
Yes, we are very much aware of that. Well, the Ukrainian Assistance Fund is to assist Ukraine. It's not to develop the European defense industry. It's to support Ukraine. And I put that clear today that any member state who wants to buy ammunition out of the European Union because they have an offer or they know where to buy it, they can do it, and this is eligible to be refunded from the European Peace Facility. It has always been like this. Member states who want to provide ammunition to Ukraine can take this ammunition from wherever, from their stocks, from the European defense industry, from any supplier around the world. And in fact, this Czech initiative to provide, they say, 800,000 ammunition, it is perfectly eligible to use the Ukrainian Assistance Fund to refund part of the cost to the member states who participate in this initiative. But at the same time, there are proposals for joint procurement to the European industry. But don't confuse joint procurement to European industry and the fact that any member state can look around the world to look at ammunition, to buy it, to send it to Ukraine, and be asked to be refunded. It has always been like this. And if the member states agree on seizing the revenues from the Russian frozen assets, these resources could partially be allocated to the European Peace Facility to increase our military support to Ukraine. This is nothing new. We have been discussing that for months. And also to increase the defense capacity of the industrial sector in Ukraine. Both things are needed. We had to push for the industrial capacity of the Ukrainian defense sector at home, and we can, in the meantime, to provide arms to Ukraine. And for that, we have an instrument, which is the European Peace Facility, for a simple reason. The European Union budget cannot use their resources to buy arms. Not to buy arms. That's why we have this extra budgetary fund, which is not submitted to this restriction. But the Ukrainian Assistance Fund is to support Ukrainians. It has only this purpose.
Okay, thank you very much. Next one was Nicolas Gros.
Monsieur le représentant, Nicolas Gros-Verret en français, s'il vous plaît. Concernant les sanctions sur les colons israéliens extrémistes, je voulais avoir quelques précisions. Là, on a un accord politique. Il faut ensuite que vous fassiez des propositions pour sanctionner ces personnes avec un gel des avoirs et une interdiction de visa, ou seulement un ou deux aspects. Et est-ce que vous espérez rapidement que ces décisions pourront rentrer en vigueur, sachant que je je pense qu'Anthony Blinken vous en a parlé, les Américains ont été plus vite que les Européens sur ce côté-là. Et je voulais une deuxième question sur le corridor maritime. Vous étiez assez réticent, enfin du moins j'avais compris ça au départ, sur la faisabilité de ce corridor. Il se met en place. Est-ce que vous allez le soutenir financièrement d'une façon ou d'une autre afin qu'il puisse y avoir plus de bateaux qui puissent arriver sur place? Et comment ça se fait que les Européens ont été incapables de mettre en place ce corridor plus tôt? Merci beaucoup.
Ben non, j'ai jamais été réticent. Écoutez, l'aide à Gaza par tous les moyens. Normalement, ça devrait être par route, parce que c'est la façon la plus efficace. Mais si c'est pas possible, parce que il y a une limitation au nombre de camions qui peuvent entrer, et il y a une limitation, c'est évident. Alors, s'il y a des bateaux, faisons-les par bateau. Mais, écoutez, le bateau qui est allé de Chypre à Gaza, c'est un bateau d'une organisation privée. C'est un cuisinier espagnol qui a une ONG qui donne de la nourriture aux gens de Gaza. Oui, il a utilisé, je ne sais pas qu'est-ce que ça veut dire, le corridor maritime. Il est sorti de Chypre, il est arrivé à Gaza. Oui, il y a un corridor maritime, mais et quand on est arrivé à Gaza, le bateau a débarqué sa cargaison d'une façon assez précaire. Mais c'est quand même fait, c'est bien, c'est très bien. Mais c'est une organisation privée. Mais évidemment, nous, on va aider à développer les cargaisons par bateau. S'il n'y a pas d'autre solution, il vaut mieux par bateau que rien. Donc, il faut vraiment dire que c'est une initiative positive. Et en même temps, il faut dire aussi que la seule alternative qui peut fournir la quantité d'aide nécessaire, c'est l'ouverture de la frontière terrestre. C'est comme le parachutage. On parachute des colis et à 1h30 de là où le parachute tombe, il y a un aéroport. À 1h30 par route de là où le parachute tombe, il y a un aéroport. Mais l'aéroport est fermé. Bon, alors on fait parachutage. Le normal serait qu'on puisse atterrir avec un avion cargo. De la même façon qu'on demande à Israël d'ouvrir un port. Et cela, Chypre a joué un rôle très important. Et je vais remercier à Chypre parce qu'il a lancé cette idée. Et cette idée commence à marcher. Mais pour les settles, le dernier conseil, on n'a pas eu l'unanimité. Alors on a dit chacun peut le faire de son côté. Mais le gel des actifs financiers ne peut pas être fait chacun de son côté. Parce que ça, c'est une compétence de l'Union. Soit on le fait au niveau de l'Union, soit on ne le fait pas. Par contre, les visas, oui, les visas, c'est une compétence des États membres. Donc chacun peut le faire. Alors maintenant, il y a l'unanimité. Les pays qui avaient bloqué, maintenant, il dit qu'il est d'accord. Bon, il est d'accord, il s'abstient. Il ne s'oppose pas. Alors, on avait déjà préparé la liste de personnes qui allaient être sanctionnées. Il faut tout simplement remettre ça en route et proposer ça à nouveau au Coreper pour que la décision soit adoptée.
Merci. Next one was Andrew. You still have, yeah.
Andrew Gray from Reuters. High Representative, you said there was strong support for using the revenues or the proceeds from frozen Russian assets to help Ukraine, but there wasn't unanimity. How many countries are not convinced? Do you need unanimity to be able to do this? And are there more reservations when it comes to the idea of using this for military purposes? Would it be easier to get agreement if it was only to be used for reconstruction?
No, I don't think so. There is an issue on itself, which is the legal basis and the financial consequences of seizing not the assets, but the revenue generated by these assets in exceptional circumstances. I cannot say that anyone was opposing, but they wanted to have a concrete proposal in order to study carefully the legal basis. I understand. We live in state of law. We cannot take arbitrary measures. The decisions that we take has to be supported by international law or compatible with international law. And so member states want to study carefully the text that will be presented to them in a couple of days.
Thank you very much. In the back, Maria, you still want to ask? Yep.
Hello, let me stand up. Maria Psara with Euronews TV. We read the reports, we hear you speaking, we listen to the ministers entering the Foreign Affairs Council complaining about the starvation in Gaza. But what the EU can do to literally and actually help the people in Gaza? And you invite now the Minister of Israel, the Foreign Minister of Israel. What do you expect from him? Do you want to put some pressure on him in order to stop the situation of starvation or not to attack in Gaza, in Rafah? Thank you.
Pues claro, vamos a hacer. Certainly, we are going to put pressure. We are doing that. Chancellor Scholz went to discuss with Prime Minister Netanyahu, and I think that he put a lot of pressure, no? Saying that Europeans cannot sit and look what's happening, cannot look at the starvation of the Palestinians without doing nothing. So I understand that this statement, another statement, coming also from the US, is an expression of the will to put pressure in Israel in order to make them understand that they have to allow more humanitarian support coming into Gaza. But from our side, maybe others can take other measures, but from our side, it is political and diplomatic pressure in Israel in order to make them understand that this situation is not acceptable. This is what all political leaders of the European Union has been saying, and today it was a clear consensus that this situation is not acceptable. But the only solution is to put political pressure on Israel.
Thank you. Next one, Luis, in the back.
¿Qué tal, señor Borrell? Soy Luis Tovar, de Informativos Telecinco. Me gustaría preguntarle por las elecciones rusas. Hemos visto el comunicado, que es contundente, pero me gustaría saber si cree usted que se podría haber llegado un poco más lejos. Se dice que no se reconocen los resultados en los territorios ocupados, en Crimea y en el Donbass, pero se podría haber llegado al punto de no reconocer las elecciones en todo el territorio ruso. Gracias.
Bueno, hay una diferencia clara entre celebrar elecciones en casa del otro y hacerlas en tu casa. O sea, es llueve sobre mojado. No solamente las elecciones son unas elecciones fake, en el sentido de que no hay libertad de expresión, ni los candidatos alternativos. En fin, todo el mundo sabe cómo son las llamadas elecciones en Rusia. Pero si además las hace usted en un territorio que no pertenece a Rusia, sino que lo ha usurpado del país vecino, pues doble condena, ¿no? Doble condena. No solamente las elecciones son elecciones que no pueden ser reconocidas como tales en su esencia misma, sino que encima se hacen violando la ley internacional porque se hacen en un territorio que no reconocemos como un territorio ruso. ¿Qué más podemos decir? Más que lo que ya he dicho. Son elecciones que han tenido lugar en un contexto altamente represivo, donde todos los electores y los candidatos entre comillas alternativas han estado bajo fuerte presión, donde las libertades públicas no son reconocidas. ¿Qué más puedo decir para descalificar la esencia democrática de estas elecciones?
Muchas gracias. Y tomamos una última. ¿Sí? Lisa. Lisa, here, in front.
Esto me hará más amigo de Rusia, pero creo que hay que decirlo.
Gracias. A short one, just on the Israeli extremists. Can you name the organizations or the individuals, and what are the sanctions what exactly are the sanctions? Is it a travel ban plus freezing of their assets? And how do you identify those assets?
Se trata de personas concretas que han sido identificadas como responsables de acciones violentas contra los colonos. Nuestras sanciones son siempre individuales, son siempre de la misma naturaleza, que es prohibir el acceso a territorio europeo y congelar activos si se identifican. ¿Qué más podemos hacer? O sea, siempre sancionamos a los individuos y a las organizaciones de la misma manera. Usted no está autorizado a venir a Europa y si tiene activos se los congelamos. Y eso será lo mismo que hagamos con estas personas violentas cuyo nombre, como dice el Quijote, no quiero acordarme. Tampoco creo que sea importante el nombre en concreto y particular, que no tengo en la cabeza, pero ya estaban perfectamente identificados y las sanciones propuestas, y ahora se va a volver a poner sobre la mesa lo que no fue aprobado en el anterior FAC y ahora sí.
Okay, muchas gracias. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming. This concludes the press conference. We will see you again on Wednesday after the Association Council with Ukraine. Have a nice evening. Goodbye.
Muchas gracias.